Chapter 40 of Married Thrice to Salted Fish. Lin Chingyu sat quietly on the bed for a long time. For a while, he couldn't tell the difference between the dream and the real world. He looked blankly at his hand as if he could still recall the feel of the boy's lower abdomen. But no matter how he tried, he couldn't remember the face of the person in his dream. He only remembered that the man was taller than Lu Wancheng he was familiar with. He was handsome, had a better sounding voice, and could easily carry him. And what else? His memory of the boy seemed to be covered with a veil. No matter how hard he looked, he could only see a vague outline. Hualu brought over hot water, waiting upon him as he washed his face. He asked, "Did you dream of him last night?" Hualu's eyes turned red again, and she shook her head. Lin Chingyu slowly closed his palms. He came back. "What did the young master say to Shao Jun?" Lin Chingyu smiled. "He was the same as before, saying nothing serious. He just said some useless nonsense. He didn't even want to tell him his name, the bastard. He should be hanged and given a beating." But even if all he said was nonsense, the atmosphere of the dream had been warm, making one feel nostalgic. It was a pity that when he woke up from the dream, there was nothing left. Lin Chingyu began to collect the things Lu Wancheng had left behind, selecting some that would be buried with him. There were too many things, so he asked Hualu to sift through them first. He picked out the things that Lu Wancheng had used in the past year. Others that were too old could be disposed of at a will. The clothes he'd worn, the jade crown he'd worn, the tableware he had used, the throwing pot he had played with, the books he'd read, and the birds. During the first half of the year, Lu Wancheng's health hadn't been too bad. He collected a lot of strange things and also raised a Huame and Maina. Later, his health gradually deteriorated, and both the Huame and Maina also died of illness. Lu Wancheng personally arranged the funeral for the two birds, humming a cheerful tune to send them on their way. He said that the tune was called the Coffin Dance Meme and asked him if he wanted to learn it. What's a coffin dance meme? I don't know. He could teach him, and when he died, he could have the people from the Shaanxi play it on the Swana as they carried his coffin and sent him off. At the time, he didn't feel like paying attention to Lu Wancheng. He simply let him babble outrageous things in his ear and wouldn't even look at him. Fortunately, Lin Chingyu has a good memory, and even if he hadn't paid attention at the time, he could still recall many details now. Lu Wancheng liked fun things that didn't require him to move much. One day, on a whim, he said that he wanted to know how the people of Dayu sheared sheep. So he asked the steward to bring a sheep from one of the villages. He then ordered them to shear the sheep in front of him. "If I were that sheep, I would have died from embarrassment," Lu Wancheng said as he lay on the reclining chair. This reclining chair was Lu Wancheng's favorite. He liked to lie on it to bask in the sun, swaying slowly, squinting, just like a lazy cat. Lin Chingyu followed Lu Wancheng's example and lay down on the reclining chair. He picked up a book that he'd been that had been lying by the side and flipped through it. He remembered this book, a popular crime mystery novel. Lu Wancheng had circled the murderer's name on the third page, making it so that he couldn't read it any further. He wrote the word "get lost" in reply to Lu Wancheng and never revisited this book afterwards. He hadn't expected for Lu Wancheng to actually reply to him in the book. This man is the murderer. Get lost. In the end, I have unexpectedly spoiled Dr. Lin's reading experience. I'm sorry, let me cut over to you in apology. Lin Chingyu looked at a certain someone's scribbled handwriting and the corners of his mouth curved up slightly. Lu Wancheng had always been like this, first making people speechless with anger, then quickly and sincerely apologizing, making it impossible to stay angry. At that time, Lu Wancheng was still a through and through hedonistic son of rich parents, eating and drinking all day long, lying in bed and refusing to get up. Since when did he start to become deep and shrewd, exhausting his thoughts and ingenuity? There was a slight dull pain in his chest. Lin Chingyu closed the book. Still, he couldn't shed any tears. Maybe what he lost was something he should never have had. In the study, Lin Chingyu found Lu Wancheng's will written a month ago. In his letter, he stated that the dowry left by his biological mother when she was to be left to his widow, Lin Shi, in its entirety. Secondly, he hoped that his grandparents would convey to the Empress that since he had already passed, the matter of their being husband and wife as part of the Chongxi should stop here. He wished for Lin Shi to be able to return to the Lin residence, and from here on, their marriage should be irrelevant. When she got married, Wen Guoguang prepared a very generous dowry. 20 years later, it had hardly been touched. It was almost comparable to the Lin residence's entire family property. In addition, after Lu Wancheng departed, Zhang Shiquan also discussed the accounts with Lin Chingyu. Since taking over the general affairs of the Hao Mansion, Zhang Shiquan has been quietly transferring most of the Hao Mansion's fields, villages, and shops under Lin Chingyu's name. Lu Wancheng said on their wedding night that when he died, he would let him take his inheritance back to the Lin residence. Lu Wancheng hadn't lied to him. There was only one thing left, when Lu Wancheng hadn't made up his mind on before he died. Shaojun, young Master Hao, didn't know about the issue of the private salt business in Shushao. In your opinion, what should we do now? Lin Chingyu originally wanted to use this matter to force Liang Shi to submit. At the same time, after making full use of Lu Niantao, he would use it to make her fall from power. It wouldn't do him any good if Lu Niantao really became a Gufei and gave birth to a prince. It was a pity that before he could use it, mother and daughter were already on the point of dying. Within the span of a year, the Nananhao mansion had experienced death, madness, and illness. Their situation was already as precarious as a pile of eggs. Now, he just had to wait for Nananhao to be unable to hold on any longer, either retiring and returning to his hometown and falling ill and dying. There was no need for him to do anything. How boring. Extricate yourself from this matter completely. Let them continue to make trouble, Lin Chingyu said. Maybe it will be useful in the future. Zhang Shi Quan said respectfully. Yes. Young master, Huan Tong hurried into the room. The crown prince is here. Master Hao says you should prepare to welcome him. Both the emperor and the empress expressed concern over Lu Wancheng's death. As the crown prince, Shao Cheng could not neglect this matter. For him to come to the mansion to offer his condolences in person was considered giving Nanan Hao face. Lin Qingyi knew that such a day would come. I see. I will change my clothes and go. Nanan Hao, supported by Pan Shi, was waiting by the gate to receive the crown prince. Lin Qingyu, along with the other clansmen, stood behind him. Nanan Hao thought that the crown prince would come with his side concubine when he came to pay his condolences, but unexpectedly, only the crown prince came. Shao Cheng and Nanan Hao exchanged a few greetings, saying nothing more than polite civilities, such as, "I'm sorry for your loss. I wanted to come earlier to the mansion to send my cousin off. However, official matters have kept me so busy that it is only today that I managed to get away." The emperor was getting on in the years, and since catching a cold during the hunting party, His Majesty's health has not been as good as before. For the stability of the court, he had to let the crown prince assist him. Shao Cheng even took over the Ministry of Revenue from Nanan Hao. It could be said that Shao Cheng was like the sun at high noon. His power and influence was growing. Nanan Hao now only had one daughter left, so he couldn't help but ask for the side concubine's current situation. Shao Cheng simply downplayed the matter. Lucy is feeling unwell and is inconvenient for her to leave the palace. I shall burn incense for my cousin on her behalf. Lin Qingyu looked behind Shao Cheng. The crown prince was away from the palace, but aside from the driver's group, he only brought 2 bodyguards with him. Given Shao Cheng's suspiciousness, he would definitely not be so negligent about his own safety. He must have hidden a lot of his shadow guards in places where others couldn't see. Nanan Hao invited Shao Cheng in. When Shao Cheng passed by Lin Qingyu, the corner of his lips raised up into a smile that was not yet a smile. "Shao Cheng, you're next." Lin Qingyu was first to look away. It wasn't that he was afraid to lock eyes with Shao Cheng. He was only worried that if he were to be hit with Shao Cheng's grease, no one would be able to save his eyes. The group arrived at the morning hall. As Lu Wancheng's widow, Lin Qingyu lit 6 incense sticks and handed them over to Shao Cheng. Shao Cheng took the incense sticks and said in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear, "Little Qingyu, you have lost weight." Lin Qingyu had a blank expression on his face, as if he hadn't heard. Shao Cheng looked at Lu Wancheng's memorial tablet and laughed slowly. "I still remember my cousin once saying that as long as he doesn't say it's over, nothing will end. But what about now? The person standing in front of Lin Qingyu is me. Is this not considered an end?" Lin Qingyu's heart moved. "That's right. As long as that person doesn't say it's over, nothing ends." He cheered up and said, "Your Highness may have heard rumors about me." "Rumors?" "I married Lu Wancheng, and the Nanan Hao mansion met with disaster after disaster. It can be seen that the matter of having a male wife is not tolerated by heaven. Is little Chingu misunderstanding something? Shao Cheng smiled evilly. How can I marry a male wife? What I want is only your face. Lin Chingu raised his eyelashes. Your Royal Highness, what do you want? There is no need to hurry. Shao Cheng bowed slightly 3 times to Lu Wancheng's memorial tablet. He looked to the piously burning joss sticks while he said insulting words to the widow of the deceased. The most delicious prey can only come from a patient hunt. Lin Chingyu's eyes drooped back down. His hand reached into his sleeve as if to pull out something. A white light flashed in front of Shao Cheng's eyes. Before he realized what had happened, a figure came out of nowhere and stood in front of him. Lin Chingy felt a sharp pain on his wrist, and he was knocked back a few steps, barely able to stabilize his body. He then found a long sword placed against his neck. A maid keeping watch beside the coffin screamed. Her mouth was quickly covered. The sudden change frightened everyone. They could only see a black-clothed young man in the mourning hall, holding a long sword, radiating awe-inspiring killing intent, looking back blankly at Lin Chingu. Compared to Lin Chingu, the young man was extremely ordinary, both in appearance and figure. He was someone who could easily melt into a crowd, but at this moment, with the slightest move of his hand, the floor would be splattered with Lin Chingyu's blood. Lin Chingu whispered, Shenhua Shi? Surprise flashed in the young man's eyes. What's the matter? Shao Cheng said, displeased. What are you doing out, suddenly appearing out of nowhere? The young man said succinctly, Lin Shaozhen has a sharp object hidden in his sleeve. Everyone took a short breath. Assassinating the crown prince was a serious crime that was punishable with death for the entire family and confiscation of all their property. Oh, Shao Cheng narrowed his eyes dangerously. Lin Shaozhen wants to do something stupid in front of his husband's coffin? Lin Chingy said calmly, Your shadow guard has misunderstood. He took out what was hidden in his sleeve which turned out to be nothing but a buyao. This is something left by young Master Hao. After young Master Hao departed, I started to carry it around with me, developing the habit of fiddling with it from time to time. Unexpectedly, it caused such a misunderstanding. I hope His Royal Highness can pardon me. Shao Cheng scrutinized Lin Chingyou. All the other people didn't even dare to breathe too loudly until Shao Cheng said, Withdraw. The young man immediately put away his sword. He lowered his eyes and said, This subordinate deserves death. After this small disturbance, Shao Cheng didn't stay long. Lin Chingyou put the buyao along with the other funeral objects to let it accompany Lu Wancheng in his eternal sleep. Otherwise, Lu Wancheng might have nothing to fiddle with in the other world. After the wake was the burial. The ancestral tomb of the Lu family was in Lenan, and Lu Baishao rushed to the capital from his hometown in order to return Lu Wancheng, this fallen leaf, back to his roots. As his widow, Lin Chingyou should go with Lu Baishao to send Lu Wancheng off on his final journey. The new year was approaching, and Lin Chingyou planned to leave for the south after the New Year's. On New Year's Eve, Nanan House Mansion did not post Spring Festival couplets. They didn't set off any firecrackers, and they were not allowed to visit relatives and friends. Although Lin Chingyu missed his parents and younger brother, in order not to bring down criticism upon them, he still chose to stay in the Hao mansion for the new year. He gave the servants of the Blue Wind Pavilion a holiday and spent the new year with Huan Tong. Huan Tong cooked them a pot of dumplings, and while the master and servant were eating, they welcomed a guest. Hu Ji was alone in the capital, and it was inevitable for him to feel particularly lonely during times when families should gather. He first went to the Lin residence, where Mother Lin gave him a meal and said that if he had nothing to do, he could go to the Nanan Hao mansion for a visit. So Hu Ji came and brought along a few of Mother Lin's pastries. Lin Chingyu thanked him and asked, "Is mother well?" Hu Ji said, "Xianyang is all right. I am more worried about Shao Jun and Pan Yan, who is far away in Yonglian." Lin Chingyu frowned. It has been a long time since the news came to the capital from the Yongliang. New information has been slow in coming. The battles to the northwest continued unceasingly. General Gu's fate was uncertain, and no one knew when his father could return. When Hu Ji heard that Lin Chingyu was going south, he said worriedly, "The epidemic is raging in the south. Shao Jun must be careful." Lin Chingyu nodded and said, "Yes." Hu Ji stayed with them for a while and then got up to say goodbye. Lin Chingyu saw him out. When he looked up, he saw the sky ablaze with light, the galaxy twinkling down on them. That night, the year ended, and tomorrow the new year would come. After that night, the soul of the body, surnamed Jang, never entered his dreams again.